Welcome back. That's right, it's another edition of The Advantage Line, your one-stop shop for all things NRL and rugby league. You'll notice I'm all by myself here in the studio today. I think we've sent Carl off for an HIA, so hopefully he comes back all clear and he can rejoin the podcast at some stage. But what I do have is our regular two guests on the show. First of all, we'll head up to Papamoa for our good friend, ex-Warrior, ex-Tiger. In fact, we could run through a few NRL teams and say ex with this man, Blake Ashford. Blake, welcome back again.
Thanks, mate. I sort of hitched myself to whatever team's going to look good in the future. And as you can see, I've got the Tigers earring on, the Tigers jersey, and 2023 is going to be a big year. It's going to be a big year.
I'm sure we'll have a little chat about the Tigers, not in the not too distant future. But I'd also like to introduce another guest, or another friend who has been on the show quite a few times. Searley, how are you?
Yeah, good. No complaints up here, mate. She's horrible weather, but Warriors back on this weekend after the bye. I thought it would never come. Last weekend really dragged on, so excited.
Well, let's get stuck into it straight away. First of all, before we get to the Warriors, I'd like to get to the Storm because they are the institution that I bank with, and they let me down last week. Have they lost that, I guess, almost that aura where even when they were down on manpower, they used to always seem to be able to find a way to win a game? They've lost 2 on the trot now. What's going on, Blake?
Yeah, I put it a lot down to the side. I mean, I know we're used to seeing teams like them, just whoever's in, fill the gap and just keep going. Like we have seen the Panthers, but it's been such a long tenure for that side. I just think that Pappenhausen's not 100% at the moment. I don't think he's come back. But look, once we get Munster and the team back, I don't think we'll see them rest at the end of the year like we usually do. I think this could be a blessing in disguise for the Storm. A couple of losses here, and then those last 5 rounds, they start to ramp up towards the final. So I'd be keeping that bank account, quite well and open there, Paul, because I think I got a funny feeling that this is a blessing in disguise, as I said, for the Storm.
Searley, is it too early to sort of start panicking if you're a Storm fan? I mean, they're still in the 8, and we're going to be through Origin after this week. Surely it's just, don't worry, things are going to return to normal very, very soon.
Yeah, look, I definitely think so. I think it just goes to show that perhaps they don't have the depth that they have in previous years, and especially in their kind of outside backs at the moment. They're kind of running low in that position in particular. I think a worrying thing was their forward pack. They kind of got dominated all across the park by the Sharks, but Sharks are still a quality side, and once they get all hands back on deck with Kaufusi, Grant, Munster, then you'd have to think they'll be back to their winning ways. For me, I think they're probably definitely behind Penrith and then probably the Cowboys, but I'd still have them as the 3rd best team in the competition. And once they hit their straps, they'll shoot right back up into that finals contention.
You just mentioned Munster, Kaufusi, Grant, players like this. Everyone's named this weekend. The big loss is where you said, like Remus Smith is probably one of the underrated losses of the year for that team. They're going to need, usually those kids come in and you've got Cameron Smith and stuff making you look like a millionaire, $1 million player. But look, I think this is the week, and I think they do a number this week, Paul. So that's why I say keep the bank account open, because like you said, Munster's named. If he gets through, well, he's not playing Origin, but the day comes up, he's ready to play. Harry Grant backing up, Kaufusi's back from overseas. This will be the week.
I guess there must be a wee bit of frustration starting to sort of grow in the camp, just because they're probably not used to losing a couple in a row and losing them quite in quite dominating circumstances. And is that a reflection of why we heard Brandon Smith's potty mouth on the weekend.
Yeah.
Obviously he's feeling the strain, and he's leaving next year. So you would have thought that maybe he's like relaxing slightly. That doesn't seem to be the case. He's all in.
I actually had it there that I think what got the better of him was frustration, because look, they'll lose a game here and there throughout the year, and they might lose one or two in a row, very rarely, but close, not in the same fashion that they've lost these last two. So I think that frustration got the better of Brandon Smith 100%. And because you got to remember, his whole career, they've never had to deal with this, like you just said, Paul. This is very uncharted territory for uncharted waters for the Storm. So be interesting to see how they go the next couple of weeks, if the same refereeing or the same thing happens to them.
Searley, I guess I'm sort of frustrated with the Storm, mainly through my wallet, but I don't drop off. Surely, I stick with the team that's been there, done that before, starting to get all their troops back, almost at full strength. Bellamy will have put them through their paces over the weekend, or maybe not as hard as he usually might have done, but he'll put them back on the straight and narrow. They'll be back to winning ways fairly soon, surely.
Yeah, and I think last week Blake and I tried to jump late once we heard Nico Hines was out. Glad we didn't. Glad the bank declined that one, because it ended up paying pretty well. But yeah, I definitely think, like Blake said, stay on board. This weekend they're almost back to pretty full strength in terms of who they have available. So I expect them to do a number on the Raiders, and I think it'll be quite convincing. But yeah, look, Brandon Smith, like Blake mentioned as well, I also had frustration got the better of him. I just think they're so used to dominating sides, and off the back of that, you get refereeing calls and things start to kind of go your way. Now, perhaps they're seeing the other side of the coin. If you're not winning down the middle, if you're getting dominated, they can slow down your play the ball. The old Melbourne Storm tricks are being used against them, and perhaps they don't like a bit of a taste of their own medicine. But I do think over the next kind of month, this kind of chatter will die down a bit, and everyone will be talking about the Storm as being just behind Penrith as that second or possibly third best team in the comp.
Right. We'll move on from the Storm, and we'll get to our favourite subject on the advantage line, the Warriors. And they've got a new coach for next season. Searley, you give us the reasons why Mr. Webster is a good fit for the Warriors next season.
I think a big box that gets ticked straight away, and one that's come up a lot, is that he's been to New Zealand. He wants to come to New Zealand. His wife wants to come to New Zealand. So that's a great start. Also think, obviously, he's been involved with the team before, which is also another good box tick. I also like the fact, he's been a part of that Penrith system for a while, and obviously the success that they've had, he's had a really good taste in that and played an important part. And then also you hear a few of the Warriors boys talk about how good he was with that Samoan team at the moment. So he has a bit of an understanding around a few of the Warriors players already, and perhaps some of that culture that we, the Warriors, have as a team that's quite different to other teams. He's young as well, which is another big tick. And I think he could be a coach that, if we're happy to stick with him and maybe we let him change a few things as well, he could be a long-term coach for us.
I certainly hope he changes a few things. Blake, did you have the opportunity to be in the Warriors team when he was part of the coaching structure there first time round?
Yes. So he was there for my first year. Webby, I also had something to do with him when he was at the Tigers in the lower grades, and I was playing grade then. So I know Webby quite well. I sent him a text message and congratulated him on the job, and sent back that he can't wait. So look, what you're going to get out of Andrew Webster, very intelligent. IQ footy wise, he knows the game. And, Searley just spoke about Penrith assistant coach. Well, Ciraldo, every team in the NRL wants Cameron Ciraldo. Andrew Webster's basically there, but not the name that everyone heard. I think he does their attack. Even if he doesn't do their attack, he does a defense. You're in that Penrith system, it's pretty good. The thing that I like is now he's coming back, and there's only, let's say maybe 2 or 3 players that were there when he was the assistant coach. Because being an assistant coach, you're sort of everyone's friend. When you're the head coach, you've really got to stamp your mark. And still, be relatable to the boys and get them to play for you and things like that. But there's just a difference you can see when people are assistants and then head coaches. And I think it's going to benefit him going back. And there's only going to be three boys there that I think were there that year in 2016. So I think it's a great signing, to be honest. I wasn't sure we were going to go after who I wanted, Christian Wolf. I know I was on with you, Searley, after that with John Morris, but Webby, I'm over the moon for this pick, and I hope we do give him time to work his magic, because I've seen him do some things in the past, and he's a very intelligent rugby league mind. So let's give him some time, and it's exciting times for the Warriors, I believe.
Searley, any idea if he'd be able to attract players once he's been here for a season or two? Does he, I guess, does he have the sort of the stature to say, come on over to the Warriors because we're going places?
Yeah, I think Blake might be able to touch on that a little bit better, having been coached or worked with him before. But I do think a huge part of that as well is success on the field. So if the boys can hit their straps next year and we put in some good performances and we move up the ladder, then I think that makes things more attractive. In the long term, I'd like to see our recruitment be based more around marquee Kiwi players as well. So the likes of your Dylan Browns and guys like that who perhaps are looking to come home in the future, and the Warriors being a strong side, they want to come home and play for them. So I think results on the field, and then of course it helps having a coach that everyone likes and knows, but it sounds like he's a great bloke, and that's kind of what most players look for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think results are the big thing in terms of attracting top line players. If you can show that they're coming to a club that already has a foundation of success, that's a big way of getting them to sign on that dotted line. And I agree, get some Kiwis who want to come home, because it's probably a lot easier to get them signed as opposed to a big name Australian. Although don't rule them out completely, and hopefully pick up a few of the young boys coming through the local leagues over here before they head over to someone like the Melbourne Storm or the Brisbane Broncos. So it at this stage looks like it's from my perspective, looks like it's a good signing. And with the players that we already have coming over next season, I think the Warriors they're certainly looking like a top 8 chance right now. Obviously, a lot of things can happen before the season starts next season. We're already talking about it before this season is over. But with the players that are coming over, Blake, do you think we've got the sort of a core there that Webster can work with?
Yeah, 100%. That's what I was going to say when we were talking about recruiting players. I think at the moment you have a team and a base where you've got like Tohu, Joshi Curran, Jazz, Adam Fanua, Blake, Barnett coming over, Murata. Like these players are coming. Dylan Walker. Like these are top players that have played over 50 games, some close to 100, some 150. I think we've got that base where you can build a really, really, really strong club. And look, I think it's all there for Webby. I think it is. Like there's not. I don't think that we can make excuses that because that excuse will be taken off that the team's not good enough, the players aren't good enough, because they have that playing base. They had it this year, to be fair. I had them in the top 8. A lot of people did, and it was because their playing squad was good enough to be in the top 8 position. I think next year's an even better squad, so that excuse won't be on the table, and I think the players that we have next year can do a job.
I think Searley still has them in the top 8 this season, to be fair, Blake. You did mention one player that really interests me, Dylan Walker. Where do you think, as a question for both of you, where do you think the Warriors will use him next season? I know he has played in the halves before, but he's more in the last season or two, been more almost an edge forward / center type player. Where do you think he'll turn out for the Warriors next season?
Personally, I'm a bit baffled with it because I don't know how they're going to go with the halves. He could play in the halves, but he's a premiership winning centre. And at the moment, the Warriors, the one thing we're lacking is, we don't know if Jesse Arthurs is coming back. I'm not sure. And the one thing we're lacking is sort of that centre IQ, that centre smartness. So I think with Dylan Walker there, like I just said, premiership winning centre, he could fill that void. And what he does do good is he doesn't stay on his one side in attack. He'll roam. He roams. So with him, I think he could put him there. And if he's not going to be in the centres, I think maybe 14 would be his best position.
Searley?
Yeah, I agree. I think with the roster that we have confirmed at the moment, you'd probably put him in the centres. But if those rumours are true and we get an Arthurs or a Tamari Martin, then you can be a bit more flexible and maybe play him in that 14 role. I think for Manly, he's probably been one of the best 14s in the comp. His impact off the bench is outstanding. He's played Origin football. He just adds a massive punch, and he seems to enjoy that freedom of the 14 role as well. So we pick up your Tamari Martins, your Jesse Arthurs, then we'll have enough cattle there to be able to put him in that 14 role. But if not, then he's a great option as a strike centre for us.
So if he's the 14 or a centre, who are our halves next season? Are the Warriors sticking with the status quo, or are we looking to mix it up slightly?
For me, I think this is what we got to do these next 6 or so weeks. Let's see Ronald Volkman really turn it up and show us, I think this is an audition for the whole team, really, who's there next year, and especially the halves. I want to see Shawnee go around again. I know everyone's trying to urge him to call it quits, but I don't want to see that. I want to see him and Volkman this next 6 weeks really turn it on and put something together where we can build on for next year. And if not, then that's when I think we've got a Dylan Walker as a backup to go into the 6.
Searley, your halves for next season?
Yeah, I think all those names mentioned, I'd like to see Sean stay on as well. And I've liked the look of Volkman. I think his potential is huge. I also wouldn't underestimate Luke Metcalf coming across from Cronulla. He hasn't been given much of a shot at first grade, but he's been carving up in the lower grades. And I think he has massive potential as well. Maybe next year's too soon, but he could be someone that you see come in with a few injuries and really impress. And then that name again, Tamari Martin, it keeps coming up. Nothing's been confirmed, but plenty of rumours about him. He can play the one or in the halves as well, and he's a great footballer. So I think we should have some good options there.
I think that's the big thing. It looks like the Warriors are going to have options in terms of where they put players, and they can afford to wait for the best performer in a certain position before they say, right, there, you're in. We've locked you in, and then they can place players around them, sort of thing. But I mean, you look this season, there are times where you thought, oh, crikey, who's going to play there? And to be fair, we tried to tell Stacey, we tried to tell Nathan, they didn't listen to us. But it's looking a lot sunnier come next season with the troops they've got coming over.
And I think these next 6 weeks, like I mentioned, I think we can see some improved Warriors performances because of that. Like you just said, Paul, all the options there, these boys have that first chance to really prove it. So
they've got their auditions basically for next season.
They sure do.
6 boys, strap in.
Well, let's talk about another team. And if you have a good look at Blake, he's got a Tigers jersey on. He's got a Tigers earring. It's obvious to me that he's auditioning for a part in Tim Sheen's big Broadway play that'll be Tiger Town next year. Tell us about the Tigers and how you think they're going to go next season.
Oh, well, next season it's pretty obvious. I mean, I think you've got Api Coruscant coming, who is an elite dummy half, New South Wales dummy half. You've got Isaiah Papali'i, who there was rumours he backflipped, but obviously Sheensy, being Sheensy, came out and said, no, that's not what had happened, and set the record straight. But the most exciting thing for me is Sheensy put his hand up, I think, to say he would coach, and then straight away Benji said, I'll come and help, and Robbie Farah's already there. What gets a Tigers fan more excited than 2005 and two of the stars and the head coach there? So, look, I really think that people say, Sheensy's been out of the game for ages. Anyone that knows Sheensy, he was sort of ahead of the game. with all these plays and things that are out now. He was ahead of the game doing this a long time ago. That's why I mentioned this year the Cowboys attack through Toddy Payton when they're shifting the ball early out of trouble. Sheensy did that. Sheensy did that a lot earlier than all these other teams. So I'm excited for the Tigers. And it wouldn't surprise me if this week's move of Hastings to lock Brooks and Dewey in the halves is a bit of Sheensy.
Blake, Blake, Searley, you've also been keeping an eye on the Tigers. How do you look? I mean, with the players that they've got coming, the troops they've got coming next season, do you see them as a top 8 chance next season?
Well, I don't know about top 8, but you like the names Blake mentioned there, pretty impressive. And Isaiah Papali'i, of course, if he does come, Blake's confident, but he's an outstanding footballer. And then Api Coruscant, arguably one of the biggest names to bring into that side. So 2 great additions there. They do lose a couple, but look, for me, the most exciting part about that whole coaching structure is a Benji Marshall in the mix. I just think he would have the potential to bring some players as well. And then you guys like your Papali'i, young Kiwi boys who perhaps were coming for Madge, not so sure now. What better than working under Benji Marshall, who truly is a god of the game over here and probably someone that they've all wanted to be either play with or be coached by in the past. So I think Benji would be a really smart appointment for them.
I love Benji, but for mine, he looked like very much an instinctive player, and just he worked on his pure skill, and he used that to very, very good effect against opposition. How do you turn that into a coaching? How do you turn that sort of instinctive style play into a more structured coaching style? Will that transfer, or will they have?
You could look to the end of his career, Paul, when everyone said, "Oh, he's done," and then he turned himself into a sort of 7, didn't he? Like a sort of structured player. He calmed everything down, sort of ran the show instead of sitting back and letting Scotty Prince run it and Benji off the back. He's one of the smartest rugby league minds I've been with and had the honour to play with as well. You've seen what he's done on a touch field, let alone, to put people in holes and make people look silly on a rugby league field. I think he's a big character. He's just won some reality TV show in Australia. He's more popular now than he was when he was actually playing. It's hard to believe. But I just think that personality that he's got with Sheensy and Robbie, it's just a good mix. And you have them all there asserting what they've learned and what they know over 20 years of rugby league. I think you got a good mix there, mate. It's I'll tell you what, could be a Tigers Bank opening next year.
I think off-field as well, he would be huge, right? Like, he's been through a fair bit in his life. You mentioned that reality show. He told a bit of a story, and that was pretty crazy. Like, imagine being a young Kiwi boy moving over to the Tigers and having someone like Benji to mentor you through off the field as well. I think he could give that side some real confidence. And look, if he got into the talent ID game as well, I'm sure there'd be some kids down in Whakatane that would be keen to emulate his career. So,
well, I mean, if Tigers are listening, I mean, there's a bloke who used to play the Tigers who's in New Zealand now. I mean, just give me a call. I can travel New Zealand for you if you want.
A couple more Bulldogs he's been ripping up, hasn't he?
Well, I can just travel down, see the young talent, and refer you back. It's up to you, Tigers, but yeah.
Give me a call, Sheensy. Give me a call, bro.
So you didn't just text Andrew Webster, you text Sheensy as well to congratulate him on the gig?
And the other 16 coaches if they need
yeah, nice.
Oh, well, 1 out of 16, surely you'll get one of them. One of them will give you the call back. So this could be one of Blake's last shows on the Advantage Line, because he'll be taking up a new residency at one of the NRL clubs as a scouting agent.
Highly unlikely, but yeah, be back in next week.
We'll keep your spot open, Blake. Don't worry. Should we let's have a look at what do we got here? I was going to have a little chat about Origin, seeing as it's tonight, but by the time this podcast comes out, Origin will be all over. But just quickly, give us your result for tonight.
I'm a bit worried as a New South Wales fan because this has got Queensland written all over it. Like the series when they had named the worst team and they came out and won. Like this is Queensland. Oh, we're injured. Oh, we're sick. Oh, blah blah blah, and then come out and win. But my heart's beating my head at the moment. And I've just got to go New South Wales.
Yeah.
Searley?
Yeah, I'm the same. All my Queensland mates are writing it off. Oh, doing the old, I might not even stay up to watch it, which is just a load of. I've heard that before, and they'll be the first ones to blow up my phone if they pull off the upset. But hopefully New South Wales just have enough talent with Munster out. So, look, 13 plus, if you're hearing this tomorrow, you'll be checking the score, and it'll be a dominant win to the Mighty Blues.
As Blake said, this is a script written for Queensland. The decider.
I reckon Munster doesn't even have COVID, eh? He's just done it for the narrative.
Dead and certainly no Munster, but Queensland won't need him to be a Munster. They just want him to just make no mistakes, be a link man, tackle all night. And you're right. This is exactly what Queensland would have wanted. I have no doubt. Everyone writing them off. I think when the market first opened, the Blues were a 1.5 point or a 2 point favourite. And the market's been all over the place. And since that news at Munster and was Tuilagi out with COVID, they're now into, what is it, around a 7 or an 8 point favourite. So I'll take Queensland plus the 8.5. Well, I would like to. We've already made our origin picks from last week, so we can't change them, of course. But I think there's going to be a fairy tale written tonight. And Searley better turn his phone off because it will be going about midnight tonight. We'll find out what happens next week anyway. Let's have a look at the results from last week. Only 4 games, of course, split round. Well, the Sharks were very, very impressive in terrible conditions. And they were under strength as well. I don't know what else to say. I just fear for the teams that are going to be facing the Storm in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And I think that includes a team that plays their home games at Mount Smart Stadium and not in the not too distant future. The Sharks have done no one else any favours by smashing the Storm last week. What were your takes from the game, Searley?
I thought someone who's perhaps hasn't been mentioned as much this year because of his halves partner, Nico Hines, but I thought Matty Moylan just had the game on a string, and I see he's been rewarded with a little 2-year contract upgrade as well, but I think his form this season's been great, whereas perhaps over the past few years, he's always been strung by injuries and stuff, but I think we're seeing that Matty Moylan that we saw from a few years ago now, so that was awesome. Another great thing from that game was the old Try July, the try celebrations. Jeez, I was loving that. I'd love to see the boys do that every game. That was some good stuff. The old fishing rod really got me. That was my favorite for sure. But some of those finishes from the Sharks wingers, they make it look easy. Like that grubber, that Ronaldo finish there, that wasn't easy to do. And I just think the Sharkies, when they're at full strength, they'll be a heck of a side to stop as well. But yeah, look, you wouldn't want to be a Craig Bellamy player this week. They would have heard it from all angles, especially the cheese. But yeah, I wouldn't underestimate the Storm for sure. But the Warriors will get them, Paul. Don't you worry.
The Sharks, now they weren't terrible last season, but you get a new coach, you get some new troops coming in. Sort of sounding like the Warriors next season. New coach, a few more troops coming in. Things can change quite quickly if you get things right. And maybe the Warriors, maybe they have got something right. Maybe they're about to turn a corner. Look, I don't want to jinx them, but I just see parallels between the Sharks and the Warriors and what's happened at the Sharks with their new regime and the new regime that's about to start at Mount Smart Stadium next season. So I should move on because I don't want to keep going on about the Warriors. We'll be talking about them enough next week. Second game from last week, the Knights put up a fight, bit of a scare, but in the end, the Rabbitohs and Latrell Mitchell, as long as he can keep his emotions in check, they're just ridiculously ridiculously good.
Oh man, you look at, so he catches a high ball, and any other fullback in the NRL when gets hit is just smashed on the ground. He stands there, throws the bloke off, and keeps going. Like, he's just amazing. He really is just so powerful and strong. And I think that 6 weeks off or whatever it was, he's come back in good nick. And without Alex Johnson, Richie Kennard got the spoils, 3 tries. Look, the Knights, like you said, Paul, did put up a fight, and it's sort of what we saw at the start of the year. The Knights, I think Milford's playing a lot better than we've seen the last 5 or 6 years. I think he's starting to find his feet at the Knights. And look, I think South's with Latrell, he gives everyone confidence. And we saw Cody's just being rewarded with a contract up in Redcliffe to the Dolphins from his play with South. So, look, I think South could be a sneaky chance if they keep coming and keep improving week after week. And they've still got to get Jai Arrow and Cameron Murray back, plus Damien Cook as well. So it's scary. Sorry, big rap on Havili. I was a bit worried when Ilias got knocked out this first minute of the game, because I can't remember the last time Havili's played 80 minutes at hooker in the NRL. And he was outstanding for me. But the forwards onto it, played fast, and was good in defense. So, too good, the Rabbits.
Searley, they're looking like a dangerous, very, very dangerous side as we approach the business end of the season. They're starting to get healthy. Obviously, their whole, I guess, pathway to success revolves around Latrell Mitchell. If he's on the field come playoff time, they could knock over a few teams.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think you saw the confidence he gives someone like Cody Walker. That was his best game of the year by a mile. And when he's on song, they look even more dangerous. So, yeah, Latrell's health is incredibly valuable to the Rabbitohs. And I think we saw that in his decision to pull out from Origin. He knows how important he is to that side. The club knows. They named him captain for the first time on the weekend. So he's well and truly the future of that club. And if he's healthy, imagine like he's just back from a big injury. In 3 to 4 weeks' time, when he's really hitting his straps, he could be the best player in the game. So, yeah, the Bunnies, all weight relies on them. But with him in the 1 jersey, they can beat anyone for sure.
Tigers, Eels, Tigers, they go close again. They're a team that's always there or thereabouts most games, but just can't get over the line. And maybe this is once again, it's a chance for players to audition for next season with a number of recruits coming in. Could you take some positives out of that, Blake?
Not too much, to be honest. I think, like I mentioned this week, Hastings at lock, Brooks and Dewey in the halves. I think they needed to move Dewey somewhere just to get him closer to the ball. I thought they would have put Dewey at half or even Brooks into hooker for the game. But look, I think that's the right move for this week. But last week, I think they're really lucky that it was only an 8-point game. It could have been, Parrott got disallowed 2 tries early. It could have been 24-0 at halftime. But look, I think they're lucky that it was only 8 points and Parrott got disallowed a couple. So I can't take any positives from that. I'm interested to see, though, this week's game and how Brooks plays organising with Dewey, because I think Dewey's he's been good the first couple of weeks back. And for me, Hastings, even though he's been playing half, when he gets into dummy half, his football goes to another level. He plays fast, gets out, puts people onto the ball. So I'm really excited to see this little spine combo this week.
Searley, the Tigers, can you see improvement in them?
I think having Adam Dewey in the halves will definitely help. I think he came out last week and said, if you're not going to put me in the 6 jersey, then I'd rather play reserve grade. He doesn't see himself as being a centre. So a big statement from him and kind of forced their hand. But I was really impressed with one of their young front rowers, Fanua Pole. Not someone that we've seen a whole lot of, but man, he's a big body. He's just re-signed for them earlier this year as well. So that he could be a real player for them coming off the bench. Just got him in my fantasy team as well. So hopefully me giving him a rap, no doubt he's listening. Just keep carrying hard, son. I think he got 170 meters off 17 carries. So some great stuff there. And it looks like they've got a real potential young forward there. And then I also think Joe Offengawa has been playing his best footy for the last couple of years as well. So some little glimpses of hope. but I do think that scoreline should have been bigger, and we saw some kind of typical para football there as well.
Speaking of fantasy football, Blake's been trying to take Adam Dewey off me this week. Unfortunately, all he's offered is a packet of crayons and half a can of warm Lion Red, so it ain't going to happen. He's sticking in my team.
Well, I'm just after Paul. You no chance for the 8. Just get one of the boys on the advantage line, just to take the title out. It'd be good for the show. It's what the people want to see. Let's just, watch other people's success. Like, get amongst it. If I win, we win, mate. If I win, we win.
Even if I accepted the trade, Commissioner Carl would put a big red line through it. It wouldn't get through.
Well, Blake was saying he wants Dewey so he can send the line up to Sheensy and just show the success that he could bring. It may be in fantasy, but if he wins the comp with Dewey in his spine, then Tim will have to say yes.
Exactly, mate. Mate, you read my mind.
Huge news out of Tiger Town. Broncos. They're probably the second most improved side from last season after the Cowboys. I think, funnily enough, both sides north of the border. I guess you've got to give Kevy a wee bit of a thumbs up, but what about Ben Eichen? Do you think he's had an influence on the club? He hasn't been there a long time, but it seems to this surge and this resurgent Broncos team has sort of seemed to coincide with him joining the club. And maybe he's having a big effect behind closed doors. Anyway, they're looking good, and they put the Dragons away last week, and they were undermanned. So it looks like they've got a wee bit of depth there as well. You're looking at the Broncos and thinking, yeah, they deserve to be in the 8 if they get there at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think they're definitely there. I think they 14 come the end of the season. I haven't looked at the draw, but Mum this year has come on as a half to help Reynolds. And Reynolds, we've already spoken about how good he is. By the year to a lot of us. Those two in the halves with that 4-pack they got, if they can get Haas back. The interesting thing for me is how good these young players keep coming up. I thought Hosking, who debuted, was outstanding on the weekend. They've just got so much depth in Brisbane. And, it was exciting to see them. But the best thing for me is Katoni Staggs, every time he comes up against someone, so it was a Talakai, it might have been someone else, on the weekend it was Searley, he just dominates. He's, to me, apart from Joey Manu, I think has the potential to be the best centre in the game when he wants to be Katoni Staggs. I really, truly do believe that. If we're playing like the old school centres, they gave him early ball and he just did a little 1-2 move on Searley and it was a try. I think he can really help this Broncos team go to a next level with Adam Reynolds and the ball playing ability around Katoni Staggs.
Searley, things looking good at the Broncos. You see any way they don't make the 8 this season?
I think they'd have to have a pretty big injury to someone like an Adam Reynolds, and then they might fall away a little bit depending on the draw. But I've really enjoyed watching them this year, and I think that's a big plus for them. Perhaps over the past few seasons, they haven't really been that enjoyable to watch, but some of the tries they score, they've got some real talents out there. And then you mentioned Benny Eichen, like looking at that roster for next year, those young outside backs, Reece Walsh, Cobbo, Staggs, Herbie Farnworth, Ezra Mam, Adam Reynolds, like that's a pretty handy backline and one that should definitely be a top 4 contender. So, yeah, I definitely think the Broncos should be in the mix this year, barring injuries, and I think they could push a lot of those top teams all the way on their given day, but I do think a lot of it relies on Reynolds.
Right, let's have a look. Let's go forward to this week. We always have a look at 3 games in particular. No Thursday night game, of course, because of Origin. But I thought the first game of the round, Cowboys Sharks, is an absolute beauty. How do you see this one going, Searley?
Yeah, I think this is probably the game of the week for me, and I think this could go either way, to be fair. A lot of it kind of depends on who backs up from Origin, but 2 versus 4. Cowboys haven't named a lot of their origin players except for Dearden. At home in Townsville, I think it'll be a real arm wrestle. Some great matchups across the park. I'd probably go the Cowboys 1-12 just because of that home ground advantage. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Sharkies got up because on paper, they're probably the better side. I'm just backing that old Toddy Payton's going to pull off another special.
Mate, I'm a man of many caps today. I've also filled in for the stat man.
Oh,
And Sharks have won the last 7 games against North Queensland, home and away. They've won the last 9 of 11. 5 of the last 7 are over the 41.5 total points this week. And the last 3 games in North Queensland, the Sharks have come out victorious. So for me, it's all pointing towards the Sharks. And we expect to play. Will you risk a young kid that close to after a big Origin Game 3 decider? I think Toddy's sitting comfortably in the top 4. I think we just let him rest. And for me, I think Talakai, if he only plays 10 minutes again, could back up and play for the Sharks. And I'm pretty sure that's the Sharks' strongest team. I don't know who's out for them if Talakai plays. I think they're pretty much full strength. You got Finucane back, you got Toby Rudolph, Nico Hines back this week. No excuses from me for the Sharks. I think they get this done.
Yeah, I'm glad that we've got Statman with us this week because I also like the look of the home team, the Cowboys here, and it's more based on the fact that I guess Toddy Payton has got them just humming along all season. There's a culture that's been sort of instilled there that I think gets them over the line this weekend, even though they're probably man for man on paper, they probably shouldn't be the favourites in this game. I just love the way that Todd Payton's got the Cowboys ticking, even when they've had players out. And I noticed Tuilangi's not there, so he's definitely not playing, is he? Because although Munster could be playing for the Storm, is it because it's another extra day or something like that he gets around those COVID-19 protocols? I don't know. Anyway, I still like the Cowboys myself, even though Statman is telling me you should be getting on the Sharks and getting as much as you can. Those are some crazy stats there.
Crazy.
If you're a Sharks supporter, you would have to back them. You don't win these games on a piece of paper. You win these games on the field. I'm going to channel my Gus Gould again. Don't worry. These were just like Queensland, who were totally outmanned on paper. They'll find a way to sneak a victory tonight. And I think the Cowboys will do the same on Friday night. So I like the Cowboys there. Second game we'll look at, no surprises, Eels, Warriors. And Warriors are, I think, 15.5 point underdogs against the Eels. Actually, it's moved to 16.5.
Yeah.
16.5 point underdogs. I'll give you the tip. I think the Irish in the second test were 16.5 point underdogs when the markets opened, and they turned the tables on the All Blacks. Searley, surely the Warriors, the Warriors can't win this match, but surely they can keep it close. Surely they could keep it closer than 16.5 points.
Well, I don't think you're going to like my answer because I definitely think we'll win. Unfortunately, we've been hit with the old virus, whether it be COVID or just sickness. So pretty big losses there in Dallin and Volkman. That right edge makes me a touch nervous. But in saying that, Ed Cossey's been ripping up for the Dolphins. So hopefully he's got a bit of confidence under his belt and he can bring that back in. But look, while she's back, Tohu in at prop, Jazz back at lock. I don't think Junior Paulo will back up. Surely he's been named, but if you're starting an Origin game at prop, 2 days later, it might be a pretty tough ask to back up. And I think the most positive thing is Para won on the weekend. So that means they're due a loss and it'll come at the hands of the Warriors. I noticed as well Warriors to score is only 12.5 points total, which is complete disrespect. So look, there's plenty of big money to be won from this game, and I'll be happy to take it. I'm going the Mighty Warriors.
Yeah.
I get the feeling I already know what Searley's total bet will be for this weekend.
Yeah, I just gave it away at juicy odds too. $1.95. Crazy.
Statman, you're going to
Mm.
tell us why the Eels are a very, very good bet, surely.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The 16.5 for the Warriors is a great bet. The Eels have won 5 of the last 7 against the Warriors. But out of the 5 games, the Eels have won 4 out of 5 games this year at CommBank. The only one they lost to was the Tigers by a point. But in 3 of those 4 wins, they won 1-12. They come against the Titans and teams like that. So I think for the Warriors, I like this lineup. And I know we've got a couple out, but like Searley just said, Para don't like winning back-to-back. This is a bit unorthodox for Parramatta to be in this position. And I'm looking towards the 3 out of 4 wins at CommBank this year by only 1-12 points. And Titans being one of those teams and a lot of other teams. I'm still tipping the Eels, but maybe by about 4 points. I'm definitely going Eels 1-12 in that one. And I think the 16.5 at $1.90 is an absolute steal for the Warriors.
The Eels have very much been an up and down team this season, as Searley pointed out. They get smashed by the Cowboys in Darwin. Then they go to Bluebet Stadium and beat the Panthers. They lose to the Roosters. They only just get past the Sea Eagles and the Raiders. Then they get smashed by the Dogs. It's a team that's very, very hard to follow. And as you mentioned, they lost by 1 to the Tigers at home, at CommBank. They've lost to the Dogs. They lost to a number of teams who are outside the top 8, which is pretty good news for the Warriors because that's where they sit right now, outside the top 8. So maybe Searley, I don't know if I can go the whole 100% with Searley and say the Warriors are going to win, but I certainly think that 16.5 points just looks a wee bit too much for mine for the Eels to cover.
Well, I do remember the last time I was actually a part of the Warriors and I played this game the last time we played at CommBank Stadium. And I think Searley might remember the forward pass that we ended up getting an apology for and got beat by 2 points and they scored. And look, that still haunts us because could have been season changing there, but it's always close there. CommBank's a close game.
All right. Last game we'll look at. And it was there are a number of games we could have looked at. I've settled on the Roosters Dragons just because I wanted to have a look at the Roosters, and I think they've turned the sort of corner. They're sort of on the rise again. And I guess although they sit, they're just outside the 8 at the moment, aren't they? They're 4 points outside the 8.
Two. Is
2
it?
points.
Is it 2? I believe so.
And they've got to get moving though. They have to get moving, otherwise they're gonna be left behind. They're 2 points outside the 8 on 16 points at the moment in 10th place, equal. Funnily enough, equal with the Dragons. And I think your bet was back the Roosters after last weekend to make the 8. That was around 2:30.
2:30. Yep.
Yeah.
They were 4 points out before the weekend, so they've already jumped 2 without playing a game.
Yeah, there we go. Let's have a look. To make the 8, Rabbitohs $1.30, Roosters $2.37. Roosters $2.37 to make the 8.
Gone out. Jeez, I did not expect that.
Get some more then.
Well, listen to this. So, Roosters have won 7 of the last 8 against the Dragons, but that one loss to the Dragons came this year, that 14-12. We know the Roosters have been this year. 5 out of those 7 wins, the Roosters have won 13 plus. So if you think they're going to turn the table from earlier this year, 13 plus is a very good bet for the Roosters. I just think, look, for me, Joey Manu at 6. That's all I've got to say. I don't have anything more to say about the game. Joseph Manu at 6. Done.
Searley?
Yeah, I also had here Manu at 6. Also, I think this is probably close to their best lineup. Of course, Luke Carey's out, so you'd chuck him in the mixer, but they get Waria Hargraves back. They get Momorowski back. All the Origin boys are named to play. Matty Lodge on an extended bench. So I think 1-17, they've got an incredibly good team, and I think they'll just be too strong. If Benny Hunt has a day, then he might be able to keep the Dragons in that 1-12 kind of loss range, but I still expect the Roosters to win, and I'd be going 13 plus. I think they'll be too good.
I couldn't agree more. I'm also on them, and it's good that they're playing the Dragons this week, because if they beat them, they jump ahead of them, and they're just outside the 8. And then a couple of weeks later, they've got the Sea Eagles, who currently sit in that 8th spot. And I think, having a look at the table, it's probably a fight between the Roosters and the Sea Eagles for that last spot in the 8. So a pivotal game coming up. When is it? Round 20. And it's the Thursday night game as well. So it'll be an absolute huge game. Yeah, I can't see the Roosters not winning this game and winning it quite comfortably. So here's hoping that they keep their top 8 hopes alive and get that 237 to make the 8. Blake loves it. Yes.
Oh, I'm back on.
All righty. Let's do some betting.
Yeah.
Let's do some betting. We'll go with best head-to-head, and we'll start with Searley, your best head-to-head for this weekend.
Well, we just finished pumping them up, so I'm taking the Roosters, $1.40.
Yeah, mate, I double that. Roosters, $1.40.
This is very dangerous when we're all the same. You know, this has tripped us up before. We're all going the Roosters at $1.40 head-to-head to beat the Dragons this weekend. Your best multi-anchor. Searley?
I've got the Storm, just head-to-head, play it straight, nice and easy. Bellamy will get them going.
I got the Warriors plus 16.5 at $1.90.
Nice.
What were they? Storm, $1.26 head-to-head against the Raiders. And Blake's got the Warriors plus 16.5 at $1.90. No, I'm going somewhere else.
Hey.
I was gonna double up with you boys, or one of you boys. I know the Tigers always put on a bit of a show against the Panthers. No, I'm going the Panthers, $1.37 head-to-head. I'm locking them in. I like the fact that Dewey will be in the halves, and that Panthers team is just ridiculously good. I expect a number of their boys to back up as well. They're just too good. They're too good for this Tigers team. Tigers are beaten and battered. They're favourites to take out the spoon now. I think they're around $1.40 to win the spoon, the Tigers. And the only one close to them is the Titans, I think, at around $4.33, something like that. Warriors have drifted out to $8.50.
That's still a great price. If the Tigers can steal a game, that is $4.30 is a great price.
I don't mind the Tigers this week. I don't think they'll win, but I think it'll be quite close. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, gee. You're making me nervous now, Searley.
Here we go.
What's your best total? And I think we know what it is.
Yeah, Warriors to score over 12.5. The disrespect, paying $1.95.
I've gone the first half of the Broncos-Titans game to be over 20.5 points. I think it might be $1.90.
Nice. I'm in that same game, and I'm going overs for the whole game. And it's 42.5 at $1.85. Over 42.5 in the Titans-Broncos game. Hoping the weather stays away from that part of the country, and we can see some good footy up on the Gold Coast there. Right, your best roughie, Searley, and don't upset Carl by giving us a $3.30 shot. Give us something $5 or more.
And I've got one that's coming in, and it's paying $6.50, and that's the Warriors 1-12. I can't believe those odds.
Well, if we're swinging you the way against Penrith, Paul, my roughie's Tigers 1-12 over 40.5 points at $10.
Oh man, now I am getting worried. Oh, I'm sticking with Penrith as my multi-anchor. I'm going to go to the Bunnies Dogs game, and I'm going to go Latrell Mitchell to score 2 or more tries for the Bunnies. That's paying $6. Latrell Mitchell, 2 or more tries. Where else have we got? So those 3 games that we just looked at, your winning team and margin bets for them. First game, Cowboys Sharks. Searley?
Cowboys 1-12.
Yeah, I'm going Sharks 1-12. Stat man.
I'm going. I'm sticking with Toddy Payton and the boys. I'll take the Cowboys 1-12 at home. Second game, I think we know where Searley's going. Eels Warriors.
Yeah, Warriors 1-12.
Yeah, Para 1-12 for me.
Yeah, Eels 1-12 for mine as well. And then the Roosters Dragons match, Searley.
Roosters 13+.
Yep. Roosters 13+.
Yep, me too. Roosters 13 and over. Of course, we've got same game claims on all NRL games this weekend. We've got bonus back promotion on all NRL games this weekend. We've got the Oval Ball multi-buster as well. Have you got a same game multi for us, Searley?
Yeah, I've gone to the Manly Knights game. I've got Manly to win, Olakau'atu anytime, and Edric Lee to score 2 or more, paying $23.
Cool. Ooh. Nice. I had the same game, but I just had Manly to win by 9+, 2 Pelotu to score, Olakau'atu to score, and a conversion to be the last scoring play. I only got $9, but let's not get greedy.
Oh, very, very nice. Have you got a multi for us though now to qualify for the Oval Ball, Searley?
Yeah, I do. My one last week actually came through. I had 4 try scorers, only 2 of them played, so the odds were reduced, but it was still pretty healthy. I really enjoyed that one in the old TAB account. So this week I've gone with the Storm and Roosters, both -6. The Warriors to score more than 12.5 points, and Alex Johnston to score 2 or more. That's paying $17.34.
Ooh, nice. I've gone a 6-legger, so allow myself 2 misses for a bonus back, but pretty sure this will be getting up. Brisbane Bunnies, Brisbane, South Sydney and Manly head-to-head. Storm 13+, Roosters -7.5, and Warriors +16.5, $18.
Ooh-wee.
Look at that anchor. That anchor, 16.5.
I like it.
I think we've covered pretty much everything. Obviously, by the time you listen to this, State of Origin will be over. So letting you know that there's a bonus back and a same game claim on the State of Origin matches. Well, it's just too late. So I hope you get on, and I hope you're successful anyway. But plenty of time for you to get on, either a bonus back promotion on the any NRL match this weekend, or a same game claim on any NRL match this weekend. Having a look at it. Anything else you guys want to add? I think we've covered everything without Statman here today. He'll probably be listening to this later on and just taking notes of where we went wrong. So we better be prepared for a debriefing next week before we have another edition of the Advantage Line. But anything you want to say, maybe to the Warriors, Searley?
No, not to the Warriors, just more so to Carly. Wanted a shout out, but I think things have gone pretty smoothly in this. So, I think it's probably one of the best shows of the year. So, yeah.
Yeah, I second that, but I also am a bit scared saying that because I think good old Daddy Carl will get the wooden spoon out next week and have a little spanking for the boys after a couple of hiccups. So I thought it was smooth, but you know he's going to pick apart.
Well, on that, we'll leave it here for this week. Go the mighty Queenslanders tonight. I know you'll get home. Good luck to all you NRL supporters out there, whichever team you support, as Searley would say. Hopefully it's the Warriors. Anyway, whatever happens this weekend, we'll still be back next week for another edition of The Advantage Line.